The power grid went down at 9:23 a.m., followed by the banking system at 9:31, then telecommunications at 9:44. While government cybersecurity teams scrambled to understand the coordinated attack, IT help desk technician David Park was already fighting back. His co-workers thought he was just trying to keep their office computers running. What they didn't know was that David had spent 12 years at NSA Cyber Command, developing the exact countermeasures needed to stop the attack that was threatening to bring down the entire national infrastructure in the digital age. The most dangerous battles are fought with code instead of bullets. And heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes they wear polo shirts and carry employee ID badges. Before we dive into this high-tech story of cyber warfare, hidden expertise, and the fight for digital security, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like David's prove that our most critical protectors often hide in plain sight, hit that subscribe button and help us honor those who defend us in ways we never see. David Park had been working IT support at Meridian Financial Services for exactly 5 years, 2 months, and 7 days. To the 400 employees in the downtown office building, he was the patient technician who could fix any computer problem, explain software issues in terms everyone could understand, and somehow always remain calm when dealing with technology crises that sent other people into panic. What his coworkers didn't know was that David's seemingly supernatural ability to diagnose and fix complex technical problems came from 12 years at the National Security Agency, where he had been trained to think. Like both a cyber attacker and defender, David had spent over a decade developing digital weapons, analyzing foreign cyber threats, and building the countermeasures that protected American interests in cyberspace. David had joined the NSA straight out of MIT, where he had earned dual degrees in computer science and cryptography. After completing security clearance investigations that took 8 months, David had been assigned to Cyber Command, the NSA division responsible for conducting cyber operations against foreign adversaries and defending American digital infrastructure for 12 years. David had worked on classified projects that ranged from developing cyber weapons that could disable enemy communications to creating defensive systems that protected critical American infrastructure from foreign attack. He had learned to think in terms of attack vectors, zero-day exploits, and advanced persistent threats that could remain undetected in computer systems for years. The work had been intellectually stimulating but psychologically demanding. Every cyber weapon that David helped develop could potentially be used against American systems if it fell into the wrong hands. And the constant evolution of digital threats meant that yesterday's defenses were often inadequate for today's attacks. David had worked on operations that were never acknowledged publicly, defending against attacks that the American public never knew had occurred. When David left the NSA, he had deliberately chosen civilian IT work as a way to use his technical skills while avoiding the high-stress environment of cyber warfare. For 5 years, the strategy had worked. David found satisfaction in helping people solve everyday technology problems, peace in the routine of maintaining computer systems, and purpose in serving his community without the weight of national security responsibilities. The employees at Meridian Financial knew David as competent, reliable, and unusually skilled at solving problems that stumped other IT professionals. He could diagnose network issues that other technicians couldn't identify, fix security problems with methods that seemed almost magical, and had an uncanny ability to predict and prevent system failures before they occurred. What they couldn't see was how David unconsciously analyzed their corporate network for vulnerabilities, how he noticed attack patterns that would be invisible to civilian IT professionals, or how he maintained security protocols that went far beyond normal corporate requirements. Habits formed during 12 years of cyber warfare operations were difficult to abandon, especially when those habits involved protecting digital infrastructure from threats that most people couldn't imagine. The attack began at 9:23 a.m. on a Tuesday morning when David noticed unusual network traffic patterns on Meridian Financial's internal systems. Not the kind of routine malware that corporate antivirus systems were designed to handle, but sophisticated intrusion attempts that bore the signatures of nation-state level cyber warfare operations. David's NSA training kicked in before his conscious mind had time to process the implications. This wasn't a criminal hacking attempt aimed at stealing credit card numbers or corporate secrets. This was a military-grade cyber attack designed to infiltrate and disable critical infrastructure systems, using Meridian Financial's network as a gateway to the broader financial system. As David analyzed the attack vectors, he recognized techniques that he had seen in classified NSA briefings about foreign cyber capabilities. The malware was using zero-day exploits, previously unknown vulnerabilities that had no existing patches or defenses. The attack was coordinated across multiple entry points, suggesting a level of planning and resources that only nation-state actors possessed. 9:31 a.m. The first reports came in that banking systems across the region were experiencing technical difficulties. By 9:44 a.m., telecommunications networks were failing, and the local power grid was showing signs of instability. David realized that Meridian Financial wasn't just a target. It was a stepping stone in a coordinated assault on American infrastructure. David faced a critical decision. He could follow normal corporate protocol, report the attack to law enforcement, and wait for federal cybersecurity teams to respond. But David knew from his NSA experience that by the time traditional response teams could analyze and counter this type of attack, the damage to critical infrastructure could be catastrophic. Or David could use skills and knowledge that were still classified, deploying countermeasures that he had sworn never to reveal, risking prosecution for exposing national security capabilities. But if he didn't act, the cyber attack could cascade through interconnected systems and cause infrastructure failures that would affect millions of people. David chose to fight back. Using techniques learned during 12 years of cyber warfare operations, David began deploying digital countermeasures that existed in a gray area between corporate IT support and classified military operations. He isolated the attack vectors, analyzed the malware signatures, and began building custom defensive tools using methods that civilian IT professionals weren't supposed to know, working at speeds that amazed his co-workers. David traced the attack back through multiple proxy servers and identified the command and control infrastructure that was coordinating the assault. Using NSA-developed techniques for cyber reconnaissance, David mapped the entire attack network and began developing targeted countermeasures for each component of the operation. The battle that followed was fought entirely in cyberspace, but the stakes were as high as any physical conflict. David was simultaneously defending Meridian Financial's network, coordinating with federal cybersecurity teams, and launching counterattacks against the foreign servers that were controlling the operation. As David worked, his co-workers began to realize that their quiet IT technician was doing things that seemed impossible. He was predicting attack patterns before they materialized, countering sophisticated malware in real time, and coordinating responses with federal agencies in ways that suggested expertise far beyond normal corporate IT support. David, his supervisor, asked during a brief break in the cyber battle, How do you know how to do all this? David paused, considering how much he could reveal without violating his security clearances. I used to work for the government, he said finally. Computer security. What kind of government computer security requires this level of training? David met his supervisor's eyes, the kind that officially doesn't exist. The cyber attack reached its climax at 11:47 a.m. when the foreign operators attempted to trigger a cascading failure across the regional power grid. Using NSA-developed techniques for cyber reconnaissance, David mapped the entire attack network and began developing targeted countermeasures for each component of the operation. The battle that followed was fought entirely in cyberspace, but the stakes were as high as any physical conflict. David was simultaneously defending Meridian Financial's network, coordinating with federal cybersecurity teams, and launching counterattacks against the foreign servers that were controlling the operation. As David worked, his co-workers began to realize that their quiet IT technician was doing things that seemed impossible. David had anticipated this escalation and was ready with countermeasures that required precise timing and techniques that he had hoped never to use in civilian life, using cyber weapons that were still classified. David launched a counterattack that not only stopped the infrastructure assault, but also disabled the foreign command and control systems that were coordinating the operation. The digital battle lasted only minutes, but David's countermeasures effectively ended a cyber attack that could have caused infrastructure failures affecting millions of people. By 12:15 p.m., power systems were stabilizing, banking networks were coming back online, and telecommunications were being restored. Federal cybersecurity teams arrived at Meridian Financial to find that David had not only stopped the attack, but had also gathered intelligence about the foreign cyber operation that would help prevent future attacks. The investigation that followed revealed that David had countered one of the most sophisticated cyber attacks in American history. The foreign operation had been planned for months, involved multiple nation-state actors, and was designed to test American infrastructure vulnerabilities in preparation for larger operations. David's former colleagues at the NSA offered him positions returning to federal cyber operations, but David chose to remain in civilian IT work. However, he began consulting with federal agencies on cybersecurity issues, using his corporate experience to help bridge the gap between government cybersecurity and private sector vulnerabilities. Meridian Financial implemented enhanced cybersecurity measures based on David's recommendations, and other financial institutions began recruiting former NSA personnel for their IT departments. David had proven that the most effective defense against cyber warfare often came from people who understood both the attacks and the countermeasures from personal experience. David Park never sought publicity for his role in stopping the cyber attack. The techniques he had used involved classified methods that couldn't be discussed publicly, and the foreign adversaries he had countered were still active in cyberspace. But the infrastructure that remained operational, the financial systems that continued functioning, and the communications networks that stayed online represented a victory that most Americans would never know had occurred. The Meridian Financial building returned to normal operations, but with enhanced security measures and the knowledge that cyber attacks on civilian infrastructure were not theoretical threats but ongoing realities. David continued his work in IT support, but now he did it with the satisfaction of knowing that his NSA training had found new purpose in protecting his community from digital threats. So I ask you, have you ever worked with someone whose technical abilities seem to go far beyond their job description? Someone whose calm competence during computer crises suggested expertise that couldn't be explained by normal training? share their story in the comments. Because here at the Human Stories, we believe that our digital security often depends on guardians whose capabilities we never fully understand. Thank you for watching. If David's story moved you, please subscribe and share this video. Help us honor those who carry their cyber warfare training into civilian life, ready to defend our digital infrastructure when foreign adversaries threaten the systems we depend on every day, proving that the most important battles of the modern era are often fought by people we pass in office hallways. Until next time, remember, the person fixing your computer might once have developed the cyber weapons that protect our entire digital civilization. Sometimes the most critical national security operations are conducted by people wearing employee ID badges instead of military uniforms.